Yes, hackers can target satellites, and doing so could have significant consequences. Satellites are essential for a wide range of services, including communication, weather forecasting, navigation like GPS, military operations, and even global financial systems. If hackers gain control of satellites, the impact could be felt across various sectors, potentially crippling both civilian and military. 1. Communication satellites. Imagine hackers taking control of communication satellites that provide internet, TV, or phone services. In countries where remote areas heavily depend on satellite-based communications, a cyber attack on these satellites could isolate large populations, cutting off their access to critical information and services. For example, rural areas in India or Africa might lose their main source of communication if their satellite systems are compromised. 2. GPS disruption. Hacking satellites responsible for GPS services could affect everything from military operations to civilian life. For instance, in urban centers like New Delhi, Lagos, or Dhaka, where millions rely on GPS for transportation, deliveries, and emergency services, a cyber attack on navigation satellites could cause mass confusion, traffic gridlock, and economic disruptions. Number 3. Military satellites. Military satellites are vital for surveillance, intelligence, and missile guidance. A successful cyber attack on these satellites could leave a nation blind to enemy movements or disable critical defense systems. During wartime, this would be catastrophic, as it would affect national security and defense coordination. Potential threats. Satellite hijacking. Hackers could take control of a satellite's trajectory, altering its orbit or even crashing it into other satellites. This could create space debris, posing a danger to other satellites and space missions. In countries like Russia, China, or the US, where satellite warfare is a concern, this could escalate tensions and lead to international conflicts. Data theft and espionage. Hackers could intercept sensitive data transmitted via satellites, such as military intelligence or even financial transactions. For instance, if a country's financial data is intercepted and manipulated, it could lead to massive financial losses or a stock market crash. Satellite jamming. Hackers can disrupt or jam satellite signals, rendering them unusable. This could affect internet connectivity in rural areas or compromise military communications. In regions like the Middle East, where satellite technology is critical for both civilian and military communication, jamming signals could create widespread chaos. Future risks. As countries like India, China, and Brazil continue to invest in space programs and deploy more satellites, the risk of these systems being targeted by cyber attacks increases. Satellites control critical infrastructure, and a successful attack could destabilize economies, disrupt governance, and even cause chaos in military operations. In short, satellites are vulnerable to cyber attacks, and the consequences of such an attack could be devastating, affecting everything from daily life to national security. Yes, hackers can target satellites, and such attacks are becoming a growing concern as the world becomes more reliant on satellite technology for communication, navigation, defense, and various commercial activities. Satellite systems consist of both the physical satellites in orbit and the ground-based infrastructure used to control them, both of which are potential points of vulnerability. How hackers can target satellites. 1. Jamming signals or interference with communications. Hackers can jam the signals between satellites and their ground stations, disrupting satellite communications. This can affect television broadcasts, internet services, military communications, and GPS navigation systems. Denial of service. By flooding the satellite communication channels with noise or fake signals, hackers can effectively knock a satellite offline, rendering it temporarily or permanently useless. 2. Spoofing. Signals or GPS spoofing. Hackers can spoof or send fake GPS signals to mislead navigation systems. This can lead to ships, planes, or even military drones being misdirected, which could have dangerous or even catastrophic consequences in military or civilian scenarios. Data manipulation. Hackers can intercept and manipulate the data transmitted between satellites and ground stations. For instance, they could alter environmental monitoring data, weather forecasts, or financial information carried over satellite networks. 3. Hijacking. Satellites. Command and control takeover. Skilled hackers can potentially take over the command and control systems of a satellite. This could give them control over satellite movements, data transmission, or other satellite operations. For example, they could redirect a satellite to stop providing coverage over a particular area or turn off sensors altogether. Military and commercial espionage. If hackers gain control over a satellite, they could use it for espionage, intercepting sensitive communications or monitoring military operations without the satellite operator knowing. Number 4. Malware and ransomware attacks, infecting ground stations. By targeting ground-based control systems with malware, hackers could disrupt or gain control over satellite operations. This includes ransomware attacks, where hackers could lock satellite operators out of their own systems until a ransom is paid. Supply chain attacks. Hackers might exploit vulnerabilities in satellite manufacturers, launching providers, or the software systems that control satellites. A sophisticated cyber attack could be initiated even before the satellite is launched into space. 5. Physical attacks on satellites, brute force hacking ground equipment. Rather than targeting the satellite itself, hackers could focus on ground stations that control and communicate with the satellite. If they can gain unauthorized access to these systems, they could potentially control satellites remotely. Electromagnetic or cyber weapons. In extreme scenarios, cyber criminals or hostile nations might develop weapons capable of physically damaging satellites or disabling them through directed energy, like lasers, or advanced cyber techniques that overload or disrupt satellite electronics. Real-world examples. GPS spoofing in the Black Sea, 2017. There were incidents where ships near the Black Sea reported GPS anomalies that misled their navigation systems. It's believed that the GPS signals were being spoofed, potentially by a state-sponsored attack. China's alleged satellite jamming, 2018. Reports surfaced suggesting that China had been jamming or spoofing signals from foreign satellites to protect its military installations or to disrupt foreign surveillance efforts. Ransomware attacks on satellite internet providers, 2022. During the Russia-Ukraine war, a major satellite internet provider, Viasat, was hit by a cyber attack. The attack disrupted satellite internet services across Europe and even caused widespread outages in Ukraine, affecting military and civilian communication systems. Impacts of satellite hacking. Many military and intelligence systems rely on satellites for communication, surveillance, and navigation. If hackers can compromise these systems, it could give adversaries a strategic advantage in war. A hacked satellite could be used for espionage or to disrupt critical defense operations. Satellites are essential for GPS navigation, weather forecasting, telecommunications, and broadcasting. Hacking satellites could lead to communication blackouts, disrupt supply chains which rely on GPS, and affect sectors like aviation and shipping. The manipulation of environmental data could also cause long-term harm, affecting agriculture, disaster preparedness, and even financial markets. 3. Economic consequences. Satellites play a critical role in many industries, from agriculture to finance. A cyber attack on commercial satellites could lead to massive financial losses, especially for industries reliant on precise satellite data. GPS and satellite-based navigation systems are crucial for global air, sea, and land transportation. Hacking satellites that provide GPS signals could result in traffic misdirection, accidents, and disruptions to global trade. 5. Space debris. In the worst-case scenario, a hacked satellite could be deliberately crashed into other satellites or objects in orbit, generating space debris that could pose a long-term hazard for all satellite operations, including space exploration and international space stations. Mitigating the threat. Encryption. Implementing advanced encryption methods for satellite communications can help protect against hacking. Improved cybersecurity practices. Satellite operators must adopt rigorous cybersecurity protocols for both space-based and ground-based systems. This includes updating software regularly, monitoring for anomalies, and employing threat detection systems. International cooperation. Given that satellite systems are often global in nature, international cooperation is essential to prevent and respond to cyber threats. Establishing norms and treaties for satellite cybersecurity could help reduce the risks. Redundancy and resilience. Building redundancy into satellite systems can help mitigate the damage if one system is compromised. Rapid recovery mechanisms should also be in place. Conclusion: hacking satellites is not only possible but increasingly a concern as more aspects of global infrastructure depend on space-based systems. As technology advances, the complexity and potential severity of satellite-targeted cyber attacks will grow, making robust cybersecurity measures and international cooperation essential to defend against these threats. We will meet next episode. Goodbye, your psycho philosopher.